on 1 second. Okay. In 2013, debate over the national debt in Congress caused the government to shut down, and millions of college students across the country were faced with the prospect of having to drop out of school because when the government shuts down, our financial aid disappears. What I want to do today is explain why there is this debate and how we can avoid another government shutdown in the future. To do that, first, I'm going to explain what the national debt is. Then, I'll explain why misconceptions about the debt are causing this debate in Congress. Then, I'll explain how through understanding this issue, we can avoid another government shutdown. I have studied the national debt for about 3 years now, and last semester I spent months digging through government documents and treasury statements for a research paper on this, so I'm pretty qualified to explain it. So let's talk about the national debt. National debt is the total amount of money the federal government owes. Every year, Congress meets and decides how much they can spend over the next year. Then they cap off that number with what we call the debt ceiling, which is kind of like the limit you have on your credit card. If you keep spending, you raise the debt ceiling. If you want to cut spending, you lower the debt ceiling. And if Congress can't agree on one or the other, the government shuts down. Right now, according to the Department of the Treasury, the national debt is around $17 trillion. And a lot of congressmen are making the argument that is a dangerous number. If I owe a lot on my credit card, I'm going to quit spending until I pay it off. And that sounds like a legitimate argument. But the other half of Congress is very, very opposed to it because it's actually an argument based in flawed logic and misconceptions of what the national debt is. So I'm going to explain some of those misconceptions because the only real way to a solution is fully understanding what you're talking about. Firstly, there are two basic types of debt: external and internal. When you owe money on your credit card, you only owe external debt because all of the money is owed to a third party. However, a lot of what America owes is internal debt, debt that it owes either directly or indirectly back to itself. Now, if that sounds strange, think about it. America is a country with millions of people living inside of it, and it provides services for all of those people. This chart shows who the government owes money to, and over half of the debt is owed to things like national defense, Medicare and Medicaid, Social Security, student loans, and institutions like NASA. We call that internal debt because all the money is owed to you and to me, and it's just circulating inside the economy. None of it's leaving the country to a third party. So internal debt is still debt, but because America owes it to itself, to the citizens, it isn't really dangerous. The dangerous part comes in when you have external debt. Now, external debt, like the money you owe on your credit card, is owed to a third party, and the money does leave the U.S. economy. The danger comes with the possibility of defaulting on that external debt. Think about the money the U.S. owes to China. If we don't pay that money back and default, then we'll probably never be able to get another loan from any foreign country because they wouldn't trust us enough to pay it back. And that's a problem if America comes under really hard times and needs a loan. That's why politicians are so worried about the national debt and are proposing these immediate spending cuts, the possibility of default. However, only 1/3 of the national debt is this external debt. And on top of that, remember we're dealing with countries here, not individuals. The US may owe China money, but China has a national debt just like we do. We owe around $6 trillion total to foreign countries, according to the Treasury Department. However, those foreign countries also owe us in a total of $5.4 trillion. So external debt kind of evens itself out. And on top of that, because China and the US owe each other, China can't just go up and say, pay us back right now or you default. Because the US can fire straight back and say, well, pay us back right now or you default. There's a stalemate aspect there that actually makes defaulting on the external debt highly unlikely. Now, I'm not saying that $17 trillion is nothing to worry about, and I am not against spending cuts. Most economists will tell you that you have to have spending cuts right now. However, using the credit card analogy suggests that the debt is this big dangerous number that needs to come down to zero immediately or default is inevitable. And that's just wrong. Most of the money America spends is on services for you and for me. And if you have these huge cuts across the board, all of us are going to suffer. That's the reason so many congressmen are against the proposed spending cuts, because they're simply so massive. The ideal would be small spending cuts over time, so you slowly pay off the debt. But this credit card analogy suggests that we don't have any time to waste, or the US will default and go into doomsday mode. So the proposed cuts are a lot larger than they should be, and there are many congressmen that are firmly against them. Okay, we talked about the misconceptions about the debt. Now let's talk about why it's so important to understand them. Imagine if Congress just keeps debating this issue and the government shuts down. 800,000 federal employees lost their jobs immediately in the 2013 shutdown. NASA shut down. Every national park across the country closed, from the Lincoln Memorial to Yellowstone National Park. And not only did the employees of all those places lose their income, but America lost $76 million per day from all the visitors that couldn't go to those parks. If you're a student that pays for college through FAFSA, you can't get that money when the government is shut down. Veterans benefits stopped. Soldiers quit getting paid. And if the shutdown lasts long enough, the emergency federal employees like firefighters and police, they lose their jobs too. And on top of that, the shutdown in 2013 cost the United States over $1 billion per day. Basically, a government shutdown is bad for everyone, and if it doesn't affect you, it probably affects someone you know. So let's recap. The national debt is not like the debt you and I have, and the credit card analogy doesn't work. Therefore, the solutions proposed in Congress that are based in that analogy don't work. My goal today was to give you a better understanding of what the national debt is, because we have a democracy in America. You and I vote people into Congress, and if we vote for people who don't understand this issue, we are the ones to blame for the debt debate that keeps threatening a shutdown of the government. This November, you can vote, and if there's a congressman on the ballot who understands this issue, vote them into Congress. If we can do that, then Congress will be one step closer to understanding, and one step further away from another government shutdown. The absolute worst case scenario that hurts all of us, especially college students. So that's the national debt. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to me because I'm lonely, and share this video with your friends. Enlighten people, clear this issue up, make the world a better place. Alright, this is Thought Train, you have just been derailed, and I will see you next week. Okay, bye.